Hey everyone, happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of Day in Life of Vintage Classic Specialist. So, it actually rained a little bit this morning, first thing, but pretty much stopped by the time I got into the shop at about 7. So, there's your daily forecast. Anyway, super nice weather today though. Anyway, look at all these colors. It just never gets old, guys. Especially since we're, changing projects here, periodically. Some of them are around and have been around for a while, and then others, this one kind of come and go, stuff like that. So anyway, sometimes I just stand back and look at it. Man, I guess pretty lucky. Gonna work on a bunch of bitchin' cars. Anyhow, so let me go ahead and talk about things more or less in chronological order. Let me try that again. What we did today. So I finished up some wiring on this one today. It was actually pretty much done, but I hooked the battery up and started testing stuff. So let's take a look here. So this guy's got some crazy bright headlights that I don't know, they're LED or whatever they are, but kind of cool. I mean, for a custom bug, usually I don't really like this kind of very blue-white light, but for a custom bug, what the hell? It looks freaking badass, actually. On a car like this, yeah, on a restored car like that 67 Beetle over there, this would look kind of dumb. But on this car, yeah, let's do it. And then let's see here, my turn signals. Yeah, there we go. So I think it still shows, I mean, even with the headlight on. So again, basically what I did was, because all the turn signals are shaved, I wired up the city lights to be turn signals. So back, nothing much to see here because this bulb holder is out, of course, being used for paint matching. But yeah, tail lights, pretty much everything's working. I still got to hook this up. It needs a bulb. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, pretty much everything that I've tried out on here wiring wise works. So that's good news. Yeah, and then I did spend some time, now that, I'm sure everything works, kind of tidying things up. So pretty happy with how everything looks. Got everything pretty organized and stuff to my satisfaction here. So this is a custom car, so I'm making somewhat liberal use of zip ties, which would be totally out of place if this was a restoration. But since this is a custom car already, then yeah, on cars like this, I like to go ahead and organize things with zip ties and get them all routed in nice little bundles and stuff. Can't really do that on a car that's like a restoration because, again, the zip ties just look out of place. Volkswagen would not really have done that. But anyway, so yeah, pretty happy with how that all came out. Yeah, just ignore that. The owner and his pal, I don't know, they're going to have to do something with that. But this is all going to be covered anyway, so even if this is all ugly, I guess, it's going to be hidden, but at least this part looks bitchin', if I do say so myself. Sorry, I don't mean to brag, but I'm pretty happy with how this came out, so for what that's worth. Anyway, so yeah, spent a little bit of time this morning kind of finishing that up and, again, testing out electrical and stuff, and yeah, everything works. Even tested the, just with the voltmeter, made sure we got power to the coil and stuff, and then the two idiot lights, the generator and the oil, I connected those to a ground and made sure that they came on the speedometer where they should. So yeah, everything is working as it should. So let's talk about this guy. So the owner shipped us a pump that was a known good pump, and so Jacob hit the ground running this morning. He installed that. And we actually, just to be safe, we tested the fuel pressure output of this pump, and it was a bit high. It was, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 6 or 8 PSI. It was pretty up there. So went ahead and had Jacob pull the pump off again, and we shaved maybe a millimeter off the pump push rod and tested the pressure output again, and boom, right at 2.5 PSI, which is pretty much right in the range for one of these stock Solix carburetors. So got that sorted out. fuel pressure, and then yeah, we had fired the motor up, and the motor runs great. We actually got it to idle like right away without too much drama. So it seems the carburetor he has that was built by I don't know who, at least that person seems to have done a good job, unlike whoever had built that previous fuel pump. But yeah, actually we got it to idle and stuff. So went ahead and had Jacob do the cam brake in. So ran it for 20, probably a little over 20 minutes at 2,000 to kind of 2,500 RPMs, kind of keep it in that range. And yeah, it went very smooth, very good, no real oil leaking. And yeah, sounded super smooth the whole time. So the plan is, I think I'm probably going to be working on this tomorrow. So I think when Jacob comes in Friday, then I'm going to go ahead and have him drain the oil, check the sump screen down there, make sure there's no excessive debris on it or anything from that would be of concern. Go through, check / adjust the valves, all that stuff, and then at that point we might even fingers crossed, we might even go ahead and install this thing then on Friday. The engine compartment, if I recall correctly, is actually ready for the motor. So yeah, we may go ahead and stab this bad boy in there on Friday. Super exciting. So it's been a long time coming. This car kind of sat for a long time with nothing really happening because we were waiting for the long block to be built. So kind of sat here feeling all neglected in the corner. But yeah, now it's going to finish up pretty quick. Really getting the motor in it. And then the rear apron, rear bumper, obviously some test driving, stuff like that. I think she's pretty much done at that point. So super excited to get this to this guy. He's been very patient here. I think the project's probably taken a bit longer than I had originally estimated, but mainly because we kind of sat around waiting for this for a while. But yeah, coming along. So let's see what else happened today. On the topic of motors, my painter looked at the engine case as I had cleaned it before, and he said, nah, still not really clean enough. So set Jacob to it with some gas and brushes and simple green and stuff like that, and he cleaned it a lot more. So I think it's ready to paint now. So I think what my painter is going to do is he'll give it one last clean, the engine case that is, with probably like lacquer thinner, and just make sure it's like super clean, and then go ahead and paint it. I'm hoping tomorrow to pick up paint for this, which is this green, and paint for this, which will be its deck lid, and then paint for the 74 Beetle, aka the tennis ball, that very bright green yellow color, because we're hoping to paint the tennis ball next week. So that's pretty exciting. But anyway, yeah, so Jacob did that break into that one and clean this one. And let's see, what else did he do? Oh, I know what else he did. Small thing, but this beauty is now sitting on its very own wheels and tires. So finally got my metal blackening agent in and blackened the lug nuts. And then, yeah, Jacob went ahead and installed those today. So I'm hoping my chrome shop will have the restored and re-chromed original 66, 67 only hubcaps, maybe even this week. But yeah, so, and then I ordered some parts for this thing to keep it moving along. The trim I ordered, and I don't know, license plate holder, just a bunch of random stuff like that to try and keep this one moving here. I need to get her done, get these lovely people their lovely car. But anyway, yeah, small thing, but he went ahead and put those on. So I started in on this one a little bit today, and I did receive already the disc brakes and drop spindle disc brake and new master cylinder set for this from Jason at Air Cooled Vintage Works. But before I tore into that, I wanted to make sure that I could actually adjust the beam on this car enough that when I put 2.5-inch drop spindles on it, that the car, we could set it at an acceptable ride height. So not like, scraping in front, you know, like a proper cowlick, which is how the car was when it came in, you know, low but not too low in front. And so the owner had stated that the car rode terrible. And I'm not terribly surprised because, again, this car was lowered 100% with the beam. So it has an adjustable beam, or a beam that he welded adjusters in, and it was like turned all the way down on the beam. So the front arms were at a pretty high angle to get the car as low as it was. It had like no front suspension at all. I did actually confirm that it did have lowered shock absorbers on it. So I don't think the shocks themselves were like bottomed out, but when you pushed on the front of the car, it didn't even move. And I think, again, it was just the kind of extreme angle of those arms. They don't really want to move when they're going up that way. Best is when they're more or less horizontal, or even like slightly facing down this way. But when they're already like going up like that, there's not really much left there. So anyway, I did manage to adjust the front end up most of the way, probably not all the way. And there is way more than 2.5 inches in there. So I think we'll be able to, when we put on the 2.5-inch adjusters, we'll be able to pretty much set this thing wherever we want. And the arms right now, let's see what kind of angle. I didn't even look. Yeah, see, this is actually a pretty good angle here. A little bit facing down from level. So I'm pretty happy with that. We'll maybe lower them a hair more once the spindles are on and the disc brakes and everything. But the good news is that, and there's no shocks in here now, so it's super bouncy. But look at this. It's got tons of suspension now. Yeah, and again, bouncy because I took the shocks out. But yeah, I think this car is going to ride amazing now by lowering it the proper way, which is, you know, to primarily lower it with drop spindles. And then he's going to have front disc brakes too to go with his back disc brakes. So super bitchin'. So yeah, anyway, I did want to check that before I started tearing things apart here to make sure that I didn't also need to replace the beam, because that was kind of my fear, that the beam was somehow like jacked or whatever, and that I have to replace it too. So kind of wanted to do that experiment and make sure there was enough adjustment in here before I start tearing stuff apart, because I don't want to tear it apart twice. I want to do it once. So there you go. So guys, some other very tiny things. The valve covers for this motor. So, you know, MP, they try, bless their hearts, but sometimes, and you know, there's a lot of different dual port head castings in general. And these valve covers for these particular head castings had an issue. And that is this boss right here and this boss right here. So when I first was test fitting the valve covers, and of course there's no gasket in here now, but just to show you, with the gasket in there and putting these on to where it was, you know, the gasket was touching the head. Actually, it wouldn't even touch the head because the valve cover was hitting here pretty severely and here. So I went and notched those areas out so you can see there and here. And so now when you put a valve covered gasket in there and push it up against the head flush, there's, you know, like a millimeter and change gap here and here. So just a word to anyone who's going to put on, like, say, these MP bolt-on valve covers. If the motor's in the car, it may be hard to even see this because it's going to be kind of hidden up in there. But yeah, just check that they actually clear everywhere, because again, if somebody has these heads or maybe some other heads that have some different kind of bosses and stuff on them, it's possible that these won't clear that, and that even with the gasket on there, it's going to hit. And then what's going to happen is it's always going to leak, and you're going to be going crazy trying to figure out why. And the reason will be is that the gasket won't really be seated, because what's happening is the valve cover itself is being held out against these bosses. So word to the wise, if you put these on, check the clearance all the way around the head. And check it on both sides too, because a lot of motors, the heads don't even match. So anyway, again, small thing, but something I'm glad I caught before the motor went in the car. And so this is why we always test fit everything before motors go in cars, because stuff like this always happens. You know, again, there's a bajillion different cylinder head castings out there. I'm sure those valve covers are fine for almost all of them, but at least for these, not so much. Anyway, all right, guys, I believe that is pretty much covers what we did today. So thank you for watching, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye.